What we tend to do with feedback, though, is we can confuse it with fact about our very soul. And what the BS filter tried to do was go, okay, let's just be aware this is someone's opinion based on their point of view, their experience, how much sleep they've had. So there's data here. And let's make sure we look for what's useful. It is not a fact about our very soul. It's useful data, potentially really useful data. And it's our job to filter that from all the kind of noise.
Well, welcome to Read to Lead, where best-selling business books become conversations that spark change. So in 1998, the GB men's rowing 8 finished 7th in the World Championships. And 2 years later, they won Olympic gold. What changed wasn't talent, right, or hours in the water. And I'm sure that had a lot to do with it. It was actually a question they ran every decision through, which was, will it make the boat go faster? So that became a book. And 15 years on, the anniversary edition has gone straight into the Sunday Times bestseller list. And so my guest today, Harriet Beveridge, is an executive coach, a keynote speaker, stand-up comic, and of course, co-author of with the Olympic gold medalist, Ben Hunt-Davis. So Harriet, welcome. It's really lovely to chat with you today.
Thanks for having me.
So I'm going to just jump straight in. Which moment in Ben's story do you find yourself coming back to most often with clients, leadership teams, and your coaching? And why that specific part of his story? Because the story is obviously such a big part of it.
Oh, that's a really good question. And I think it's a rattling good story. It is like a kind of Hollywood movie. But the thing that I keep coming back to is Ben had been at 2 Olympics. He'd been at Barcelona, he'd been at Atlanta, and he had crashed and burned in both of them. And then in the 3rd, he got gold. And it wasn't third time lucky. It was because they switched up their approach. In 1998, they switched up their approach. And for me, that's the key, is like, we can change. We can change quite radically, but we often think we can't.
Very powerful. Let's get into a bit of the tools then, I guess. So that actual tool, the layered goals, the you told them the crazy to the concrete to the control to the everyday. Like, walk me through it with the crew. First.
Yeah. So that layered goals approach is one of many tools they use, many tools we talk about in the book, but I guess it's one of the core ones. If you imagine it as a sort of layers, at the top is asking that question, wouldn't it be amazing if? And for them, wouldn't it be amazing if we won gold? Not just going to another Olympics. Wouldn't it be amazing if we won gold? And I love that starting point because we don't often ask that question. It feels stupid. It feels ridiculous. So we immediately dismiss it. But they sat with it. And then they asked the next question, like, okay, if that's the crazy, then what kind of goals, like smart, concrete goals, would we need to hit for that even to be possible? So for them, it was things like the level of endurance, fitness, wind resistance on the boat. And then suddenly you've got these kind of concrete, more tangible things. You go, okay, they're a bit more doable. And then the next layer below was what's inside our control. What are the levers we can pull? What's the buckets of stuff that is inside our control? And that's where it starts to get really exciting. It's like, well, we can go to the gym and we can have more conversations and we can switch up our coaching. And then the last layer is every day. What am I going to do tomorrow? And what do I need to do every day? What are the habits? So it's stupidly simple, but in real life, we rarely do it.
Stupidly is a funny word there, isn't it? Because it is so simple, but we don't do it.
Common sense is rarely common practice, right?
And it's quite easy to remember, isn't it, as a result, which I think is helpful. But so shifting that then into leadership, I guess, when you talk to teams, where do you see that often breaks from the crazy to the... I remember being in corporate myself and we'd always talk about SMART goals. Maybe we wouldn't get to the crazy first, the what if, and to really open your mind and be expansive in that thinking. But to then the levers to pull would always then fall down in the habits. So there was kind of, maybe not crazy if or moving into habits. But where do you see that people skip or don't focus in on enough in those 4 areas?
I think it varies from team to team. So I work with some teams where they're very comfortable as a leadership team with their head in the clouds going, wouldn't it be amazing if? But they never translate it to what are we going to actually do? I work with a lot of leadership teams where they are busy, 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 busy. And they never pop their heads up and go, what are we being busy about? What's the so what overall? And I think it's very telling when you said, oh, I've spent a lot of time with SMART goals. Yeah, I think a lot of people get caught there, but they don't see the richness of the full layering. And the other thing is it's not aligned. Leadership teams, organizations can fall down because it's not aligned, that we might go like, oh yeah, 500 million, great. But then I get back to my department and you get back to your department and we've got different understandings of that, different motivations around it. So with the best will in the world, the chain collapses.
Yeah. So actually often it's linking up those goals more laterally across a business, and as much as it is thinking it through on 4 levels. To your point, I was always thinking at perhaps particularly 1 level of SMART. And what would you say is like an obvious sign then that you see when you work with teams that perhaps in a team or a boardroom or in a meeting, they're really good at the ambition, but actually there's not a lot underneath?
I guess there's a few things. So first of all, there isn't their version of that question, will it make the boat go faster? The conversations don't point back to the kind of overall so what. There'll be conversations about this problem or this project or this priority, but there's no kind of like, yeah, but so what type challenge. And then I think there's something about the flavour of conversations in that room, especially with a leadership team. Is there high support and high challenge? I work with a lot of lovely teams where they're really nice and challenge is seen as a bit scary. Or I work with a lot of leadership teams where it's challenge for challenge's sake. So it's high support and high challenge. And I think probably the most telling thing actually is not what's in the room, but outside of the room, what are the corridor conversations? So I'd always ask folks one step removed, what's your understanding of the company strategy? What's your understanding of this team's priorities? And it's very interesting what the difference between in the room and outside the room.
You get to find out in the corridor what actually people really think, don't you? Absolutely.
100%.
So will it make the boat go faster? It's kind of it's a great filtering question, yeah? A bit like rejection tool, like, well, I'm not gonna do this, I'm gonna kill this. Or what's the hardest thing a leadership team has had to stop doing? Or you've seen them say, do you know what, we've got to move away from that. We need to focus on this. This isn't making the boat go faster.
I think the first thing is, it's interesting you talk about it being a rejection tool, because I think I'd challenge that and go, it's a focus tool or it's an equalization tool, because we tend to, and there's academic research around this. There was a study by Adams et al. And they looked at Lego. They got people into the lab and got them they set them some challenges and said, here's some Lego, solve this challenge. And consistently people would add to. They'd use more bricks than they needed. We have this tendency to add to, like we're adding to our to-do list, we're adding to our strategic goals. So I think that the question, will it make the boat go faster, is a lovely way of like leveling the playing field. It might be an addition, but it absolutely might be a reduction. What do you need to take off your list? What do we need to say no to? And in terms of what I've seen is really hard, I think one of the hardest actually is when people confuse what's valuable with what feels like hard work. There's a lot of folks who are kind of, I'm the hero, I'm going to fix this and I'm working hard. And they conflate that with whether it's valuable or not. And it often is like, it might be quite simple. Like I use the stupidly simple, straightforward. So I think that conflation is what trips up a lot of managers and leaders.
And another thing that stuck from the book was that the crew ran through what they called the BS filters.
Right, yeah.
Yeah,
And some quite colourful language in the book, yes. This was a group of
it's
lads
real, right?
in their 20s.
Exactly. And therefore it sticks as well. And that they only, and this resonated with me for a number of reasons, but they only took the praise or the criticism people who earned the right to give it. I think that's a really important point and point of reflection. And that's harder nowadays, where we talk a lot about feedback, but it can come from anywhere constantly, right?
Yeah.
So how does a senior leader that builds that filter today? How do you stop it quietly becoming that echo chamber as well?
So I guess actually the crew, even then, were surrounded by feedback of different quality and usefulness. So, I mean, there's been in the book where Ben talks about joining the national crew for the first time, that he'd been at kind of club level and he joins the national crew, and he's a young guy. And he had older guys just literally swearing at him, like, you're wrong and you're messing it up, and like full on. I think what we tend to do with feedback, though, is we can confuse it with fact about our very soul. And what the BS filter tried to do was go, okay, let's just be aware this is someone's opinion based on their point of view, their experience, how much sleep they've had. So there's data here. And let's make sure we look for what's useful. It is not a fact about our very soul. It's useful data, potentially really useful data. And it's our job to filter that from all the kind of noise.
I like that. So reframing it and just looking at it in terms of what's actually useful to you at that particular moment.
You don't have to act on everything. It's important to listen to it, to invite it. I mean, when I first met my co-author, Ben, he asked for feedback about everything. It really struck me. I was in a corporate environment at the time where it was almost, I have my annual review, and if no one says anything, brilliant. And he was very much, so tell me what's working, what isn't working. And he would just treat it as data, just treat it as a triangulation point, and then figure out what's useful to do with this information. And as a crew, they had, coaches, managers, each other to help them filter that information. And that's one of the reasons I love being a coach, is that I can help senior leaders in that to kind of winnow out the noise from what's useful.
So you added a chapter on performing under pressure, and I saw that you've also done many solo shows, say at the Fringe, where failure is so public, right? I know this is something that I have had to kind of overcome. That fear it's very instant when you're on stage there, and it's entirely kind of yours. No crew, no cocks, if you like. So what does stand up teach about pressure that perhaps elite performance or elite sport doesn't?
Oh, that's an interesting question. I think in most sport, not all, but in most sport, there's a clear winning and losing. You're the fastest, you've got the most points. I mean, some's a bit more subjective. In comedy, it's completely subjective. There's no joke that everyone's going to find funny. So it feels much more personal. It feels like it's a rejection of you.
I'm cringing inside at the thought of it.
So I think it's really taught me there is the audience reaction, there is the laugh that you want to get, there's the rave reviews you want to get, but that is completely outside your control. All you can focus on is your performance. And that's really where you've got to focus your attention and your energy. What's inside my control? What am I proud of? What am I trying to achieve here? And to try and separate the two. And of course, if you die on your backside, it's horrible. And then you have to use the comedian Sarah Millican's got a great rule. Whatever happened in your gig last night, you've got until 11 o'clock the next morning to either enjoy the high or suffer the low, and then time to move on. And I find that very liberating, that whether it's good or bad, it's done. We move on, and it's the performance that's really the ongoing piece. The result is gone.
Yeah, that's nice. And actually quite, it's a good discipline, isn't it? To not sit in self-indulgence of either way. So what would you have a leader do? So the morning after a town hall or a big presentation that's not gone
horribly wrong. Yeah.
Badly.
I think there's something about, and the word sort of emotional processing has got, it sounds a bit cheesy, but there is definitely something about how can you get through that pain. We're going to, like, if you care, it's going to be horrible. If someone gives horrible feedback on it's not pleasant. So whether it is a good night's sleep, going for a run, having a chat with a mate, working it through with a coach, and the research does show that actually physiological things like going for a walk, going for a run, having that sleep are really important for your brain, almost washing out the horrible chemicals, for want of a better word, I've done an MSc in neuroscience. You can tell the technical terms I'm using. And then for a lot of people, it's getting out of your head and making sure that you're talking to someone else. And again, that's why I love being a coach, that I can have that conversation with people. And then once you've kind of got the emotion more out of it, then you can start to go, do I need to repair anything? Is this town hall, has that created problems that I need to go and repair? What conversations do I need to have with whom? And what are the learns? And maybe it may take a few weeks, days, minutes to access that. What are the learn? But there will be learning. If there's nothing else, there will be learning.
And don't lose that, isn't it? I like that. You know, and I think it's reminding yourself as well. If it goes bad, it's going to be painful, but the pain is good, if you know what I mean, because you care, because you've done something important. But sort of letting the world take a spin, isn't it? Doing something else to give you some space and detachment.
100%. It feels so permanent. But there's a reason why they talk about comedy being tragedy plus time, that with enough time, you can look at things differently. You can access a different emotion around it, but it sometimes takes a bit of time or a bit of help from other people.
Most leaders will know what would make the boat go faster. It's like, we know a lot of these things, okay, but they just don't do it. It's always this knowing doing gap we perpetually talk about. Why don't they do it? What's your view on this?
I think there's lots of different reasons. So for some people, it might be the belief that it isn't possible. For other people, it might be not having motivation strategies in, that they get all excited. I talk about beer goggles when you wake up the morning after the night before and go, oh, so-and-so wasn't that as attractive as I thought they were. But and I think we get meeting goggles where we get excited about, oh, take this action on. And then unless you've got motivation strategies to kind of keep you going, often it's to do with having to involve other people, and other people are a nightmare. I've got to talk to them. I've got to motivate them. I've got to galvanize them. So there could be all kinds of different reasons. But I think if I were to give one tip, it's start with the simplest thing, because that might fix it. If you need to go deeper, great, but start with the simplest thing as a little experiment. Just start. I mean, a stupid example, I've been meaning to go swimming for ages. My normal gym class is broken up for summer. It's like, I should go for a swim. It's just around the corner. It's like, well, just go. Try it for one day. It's not like you've signed up for swimming permanently. Give it a go, rather than overthink it. So I think starting at a really simple point, and then you can start to get that momentum.
And just do it. Yeah. So just one tip from you then. What do you think the biggest thing that works for you, that really helps you personally in those moments or the day after?
For me, I tend to be an overthinker. So left to my own devices, I would stew and it would go round in my head. So it's two things. It's one, getting out of my head and doing something physical, and two, getting out of my head and talking to someone else.
Brilliant. Thank you. Okay, so last one. So someone's listening to this on their commute or their way to work or their dog walk, whatever. What's the whole conversation they'd have differently today because of this book?
I hope that if there's nothing else people take away, it's that question: will it make the boat go faster? It cuts through noise, it cuts through busyness, and really gets to the heart of what is important to me, and therefore where do I need to focus my time and effort right now. It reduces stress, it reduces overwhelm, and it's also a good shortcut, not just for ourselves but with other people. If you're sitting in that meeting and thinking, how do I raise this? Simply saying, hey, what's going to make the boat go faster, is a safe, accessible way of going, come on, let's focus on what's most important.
Love it. So simple, stupid. That's going to reoccurring theme coming through here, isn't it? It's the way that you can't underestimate the language and the phraseology,
yes.
Right? So I've read a book, The One Thing. Like, what's the one thing? But sometimes it just doesn't stick. Whereas Will You Make the Boat Go Faster? I remember reading it at Volkswagen Group when I worked there, and it stuck. So just having that in your mind and calling on it, that recall, just to keep.
And it's a question. It's a question, right? So you've got to respond to it. It's like throwing a dog for a stick. The dog can't help itself but go after that stick and pick it up. we usually unconsciously ask ourselves unhelpful questions. Why does it always happen to me? Why can't I do this? And that mental dog will run after and give us a really unhelpful reply. But asking, will it make the boat go faster, is going to help focus on what's really important.
Back to asking the right questions to ourselves and others. Brilliant. Harriet, thank you. Some real
Pleasure.
pearls of wisdom, some gold in there, golden nuggets, and really little actionable tidbits, which we love. So one thing Read Leaders taught me is that books, they rarely change people. It's actually the conversations that do. And today's reminding me that performance often comes down to just asking one better question, a simple question. So there's one idea, as you said, the one thing to take into your next meeting, session, conversation. Perhaps it's that, will this make the boat go faster? And then the harder part, I guess, is being honest about what you have to stop. That kind of filtering, subtraction. I like that.
It's quite liberating, though. The thought of your to-do list reducing. Isn't that delicious?
Yeah, delicious. Absolutely. So highly recommend picking up the anniversary edition. God, 15 years. Fantastic. Will It Make the Boat Go Faster by Ben Hunt Davis and Harriet Beveridge. A Sunday Times bestseller. Congratulations, Harriet. It's brilliant news.
Thank you.
Yeah, very excited for you. Thank you very much for your time. So I'm Sarah. Thank you for listening. See you on the next Author Edits conversation. Thank you.